Hello and welcome to the Eileen Silverman Show. I'm your host Eileen, and on this week's program, our guests discuss events in remembrance of the Holocaust with UF School of Music, Verdi's Protest Requiem on April 18th, and the Jewish Council of North Central Florida Yom HaShoah Holocaust Remembrance Program April 19th. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us for our program. On Saturday, April 18th, you have the opportunity to attend the UF School of Music's Verdi's Requiem at the Phillips Center for the Performing Arts. To tell us more, I'm pleased to introduce my guest, Dr. Will Kessling, conductor of Verdi's Requiem. And there's so many more titles you have, Will. It's wonderful to have you here.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Irene, for having me.
Well, certainly, many years ago, you were a guest on the show, and I followed your career all these years. Very impressive, all the many things you have done.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And as part of you wear many hats here in the community.
Yes.
So, at the University of Florida, you're director of choral activities.
That's correct.
Okay.
I am the director of choral activities.
Okay. And then
And also, I am the
then
music director and conductor of the Gainesville Master Chorale
Right.
and Orchestra, yes.
Okay. And now, when we talk about this performance on April 18th, we are talking about a huge crowd on stage.
Nearly
This is-
300 performers on
right.
stage, which consist of the concert choir of the University of Florida,
Right.
the Gainesville Master Chorale, and Dr. Raymond Showbaz's UF Symphony Orchestra.
Okay.
And then we have 4 incredible soloists, 2 of whom sing at the Metropolitan Opera. And of course we have our own Steve Saxon singing on the
Yes.
bass. So the
Love
soprano
him.
and the tenor are Metropolitan Opera singers. And I'm really so excited to work with
wonderful to
that
have those,
caliber.
of course. Steve just adores him, and he's, performed all over the United States and like you, in Europe also. And it's going to be quite a wonderful opportunity. This is a very special version, if you will, of Verdi's Requiem, the Protest Requiem. And so explain what this means in terms of this performance, and what a way maybe to explain it would be to see the poster.
To see the poster, yes.
Yes, that we're able to share with everyone if they haven't seen it around town, because this is in remembrance of the Holocaust.
It is.
So explain what that means, the Protest Requiem.
Well, I learned that in the small Czech town that we call Theresienstadt. It was a ghetto, actually a concentration camp, more specifically, where the Czechoslovakian Jews were gathered up and taken to this holding camp. From there, they were sent, unfortunately, to Treblinka, Buchenwald, mostly Auschwitz. But since this whole Jewish community from this country was there, I mean, you have all these artisans and educated people and
Right.
dance and so forth and so on, and craftspeople.
Musicians and-
So Raffia Schechter formed a chorus, And this chorus from a smuggled in Verdi Requiem score.
Okay, one
he
score.
taught the choir by rote this work. They sang it 16 times. And here we have this collection of starving and hardworking, labor force Jews singing a Roman liturgical text, but they used the Latin text with code words to sort of curse their captors.
Yes.
And so they sang it in protest of their situation.
Right. So hence the words protest requiem.
That I've added to the title, yeah.
Right. And there's another situation about this particular concentration camp, because when the Red Cross visited, the Germans, the Nazis wanted to show that it wasn't really all that bad. Mm-hmm. We were treating them okay.
Yeah, we're treating them okay.
Yeah.
These rumors of the death camps, it's really all benign. I mean, look here. So they staged the little town of Theresienstadt.
Right.
And they put food in the stores and bonbons in the candy shops and all of this, and put various people along the way. They had taken out the sickest, and taken them to Auschwitz to make it
right.
So,
so everybody brought in more food. So
and
they,
all
they
of this thing.
had
And so the Red Cross came. 4 members of Red Cross and representatives came with the SS officers, and they went through the town, what they were allowed to see, of course, very controlled. And then there were command performances. Bundeswehr presented. And of course, there was a command performance, the 16th and last performance of the Verdi Requiem. And then Eichmann and all to make a film of that day to show the world that Jews were being treated well. I mean, considering wartime, right?
Yes.
And so they made a film called The Führer Gives a Village to the Jews. And so here you see them, in the film you see them their day working, women sewing, and the choir singing, and the orchestra playing, and wow. And so
all
the Red Cross right. And so the Red Cross, when they left, said, completely duped, right? Wow, this is quite something for wartime. I mean, the war is tough for everybody, but look, Hitler is treating the Jews well, and so it's a complete lie. And I think that's what makes the movie.
That's what makes the whole thing more poignant
and more poignant, right?
And this whole. We're going to take a quick break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We're back talking about Verdi's Protest Requiem. And, Will, tell us about the staging of this event. And one more time, this performance is Saturday, April 18th, 7:30 p.m., Phillips Center for the Performing Arts. We're making it available where to get tickets and, giving people that opportunity. But you have something very, very special planned for this whole performance.
Well, first of all, I've written a narration that will tell the story at the beginning, and I have found quotes from living survivors of that chorus, which are only 3. But you'll hear people reading some of their thoughts about being in that choir, and I have a graduate student, Joshua Mazer, who has written an underscoring for that narration for the orchestra, which I'll conduct. Then we'll take a short pause, and the music was learned, I said, from one score, but it was also learned on one broken down piano. And so I'm going to start the Requiem spotlighted on that one broken down piano, and then find my way to
bring us back to that time.
Right, to take us to the event itself.
Right.
And then circle back and then start the orchestra and then perform the Requiem. All performers on the stage will have Star of David, as
Right.
was worn in the camp. And then I'm going to ask the audience at the end to just remain silent as all the performers leave, as a symbol for what happened 5 days later, and that's that they were taken away to Auschwitz
Lost their lives.
and lost their lives. And so here these folks literally sang themselves. You know, their last breath was given to this incredible piece of music.
Right.
And I want to honor that chorus for that. So sorry if I get a little emotional.
No.
Because my whole life
Listening
is
to this,
dedicated to making.
I mean,
this
I'm Jewish,
great music.
and so this is very, very meaningful, and I'm going to be in that audience, and I assume there won't be a dry eye. But all that you're putting into this, the rehearsal, all of the people involved, kind of give us a perspective of that too.
Well, we are, I'm rehearsing the choirs. I rehearsed the master chorale, the civic chorus master chorale on Monday night, the university choir in the daytime, and then I run over to the orchestra, and Dr. Shobaz is helping me with the orchestra,
Okay.
so I can run around in circles.
There.
And then next week I'll be pulling together everything, rehearsing the orchestra, and taking my university kids in there and bringing them. But everybody will come together, the opera singers,
'Cause you've
the
got all
chorus
the-
and everything
right,
on the
the
Friday night
soloists,
before the
okay.
concert, and I pulled together one big time the whole work. And then we'll do a dress rehearsal in the hall on Saturday and a performance that night on the 18th.
Right. So everybody's rehearsing in their separate areas.
Exactly.
And then at the end, you bring it all together.
pull it all
so you
together.
have really got to keep everything in your mind. And then wait a minute. What about the subtitles?
Oh, and
Oh, this is
also
something-
because part of this is that the chorus took these Latin words and you'll see them on the subtitles, the translation. I
Right.
spent a lot of hours translating it, and they use these words as sort of a cursing protest. That's where the protest comes from.
I see.
The,
That's the
day
meaning
of wrath,
behind
the day
that.
of judgments, and all this is like, you Nazis are going to get judged for this. Your treatment of human beings and so forth and so on.
The day
And
will
so-
come.
And the day will come, and that's what this is all about for them. And so that's why the protest. They used the Latin
So it's
text
those
as a
words
protest.
that created the protest. Okay.
But what impresses me most about the whole thing is that they couldn't use guns and fisticuffs to challenge their
No.
captors and their prison masters. But with dignity, they could sing this incredible work of art and show human dignity. And so I hope for us that we can learn something about human dignity with all the stuff going on in the world
know.
today.
I know we'd like to think that was the end of bad things, but they've
Well-
continued with many people over
And
and over again.
we can look in the Middle East now just for one example of how
Right.
it's not so
I
pleasant.
know. So you are providing something very, very important to our entire community, and I congratulate you on bringing your talent to this protest requiem, and to everybody involved in this production, who I know is putting their all in their heart into this, so that we in the audience can feel, as you say, the poignancy, and it will bring tears to our eyes, I'm sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Irene.
And stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. On Sunday, April 19th, the Jewish Council of North Central Florida hosts the 2015 Holocaust Remembrance Program. To tell us more, I'm pleased to introduce my guest, Abe Goldman, Holocaust Remembrance Committee member and former president of Jewish Council of North Central Florida. And Abe, it's great to have you here and able to talk about, all that's coming up on the 19th, which follows, of course, the wonderful protest requiem on the night of the 18th.
Yes, yes, yes. And let me thank you, Eileen, for having us here. Many times in the past, because we do this as an annual event, and it is actually on the calendar of more or less secular holidays or commemorations.
Good to know.
This was set up after the war, of course, and after the Holocaust, and it was set up as an annual remembrance for the many, many victims, both Jewish and non-Jewish, of the Holocaust and of the awful events that it represented. And it's also incredibly impressive to be able to also have the Gainesville College of Music and all of the performers doing this requiem in memory of what happened, the role that Theresienstadt played, and a performance that sounds incredible of the
very
Verdi
significant.
Requiem. Yeah.
And for those of us who can go Saturday night and then attend, the program at Congregation B'nai Israel, 7 p.m. That Sunday evening, the 19th. Just a very significant weekend and a time of reflection and the word remembrance. So, Abe, why is it important to remember? Why do we remember the 6 million in the Holocaust?
Well, thank you, by the way, for mentioning the time and place.
Oh, no,
so
yes.
In case we forgot that.
We're going to make sure all of our viewers know.
Right. Well, this was really an incredibly significant event in human history. Not just in Jewish history, again, but it was the scope of the Nazi agenda included the total extermination of the Jewish population, but also of the Gypsy or Roma population, of gays in Europe, in all of the areas that they controlled, as well as of other groups that they considered subhuman. And in fact, it also included essentially consigning all of the Slavic populations of Eastern Europe to a state of servitude, which would involve as well the forced starvation of probably up to 20 million people. But it is, when you look back on it and you read about what happened, it is still an absolutely stunning conception of extermination, of ethnic cleansing, of subservience, of methodical and so racialized perspective on all of humanity, really. But in any case, we annually, meaning the Jewish communities around the world, but also others as well, commemorate the victims and the horrible extent of the entire event. And what we've done in the past, this is a memorial service, so it includes
candlelighting.
Includes candlelighting, it includes the prayer of remembrance, which we call the Kaddish, and several other poems and musical selections and various other portions of the ceremony, which vary from year to year. And in the past, we've generally, to the extent possible, we've tried to have a survivor of the Holocaust from either our community or from elsewhere in the U.S. or sometimes from overseas, be the primary speaker to reflect on and discuss both their experience and the meaning of that and the reflection on what it meant both to go through that and to be a survivor, both of which are traumatic aspects of the entire experience. It's getting hard to find survivors anymore, both because of their own, demise and illness and debilitation.
And losing that population.
It's unfortunately, that era is kind of passing. But those of us who remain, many of whom are children of survivors,
Such as you
or
are,
have,
Abe.
right, and others. I mean, there are
Certainly.
quite a number here as well as elsewhere. Also, have both the responsibility and the privilege, really, of maintaining
Right.
that. But this year I wanted to say that what we're doing is something quite different, and it's something
Right? Yeah. No.
that
No.
represents, that's performed by someone who is also a child of survivors.
Right.
A stage actor who's done a lot of dramatic, both acting and writing, based in New
Exactly.
York.
And before we start to
Okay.
discuss it, Abe, let's take a quick break.
All right, let's do that.
Thank you. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We're back talking about Yom HaShoah, the Holocaust Remembrance Commemoration. And Abe, tell us again about what will be happening on Sunday, April 19th, Congregation B'nai Israel, that's in Northwest 16th Avenue. And we want to invite the entire community to attend this.
Yes.
It is open to the community and it is free of charge.
Yes,
And-
absolutely. These remembrance programs have always been, not just for a Jewish audience, but
Exactly.
for anyone in the community, and hopefully many people in the community who are interested in coming.
Exactly. And now with this performer. So tell
Yeah.
us more about that. Go
Well,
back to that.
We came across this stage performer who himself is the child of survivors. His name is Roger Grunwald. He's worked in drama in New York for a long time, and he's in this case he worked together with a collaborator, Annie McGreevy, who and they wrote and directed this
Right.
as a one-person dramatization of a particular segment of the victims and people involved and caught up in the Holocaust, and that was a portion of the German Jewish population,
Right.
which was of mixed parentage or grandparentage. So one or another of their grandparents, in many cases, was Jewish. Sometimes parents, but more often just grandparents. They were called, in a kind of derogatory term, Mischlings, or meaning people of mixed
Right.
parentage. But in the early stages of the Nazi project in Germany, a large number of people that had some Jewish heritage became part of the German army and the whole German
Okay,
apparatus.
And I'd
Which
not
is
been
an
aware of that, yeah.
incredible, I mean, it's really quite an incredible
Story
event,
that he's
or
telling, yeah.
story.
True story.
Many of them, by 1940 actually, were purged and then sent to concentration camps or death camps. But others, especially if they had a kind of Aryan, kind of Germanic
Mm-hmm.
features, were allowed to continue as members of the German army. And
Interesting.
they represented, the German Jewish population was particularly heavily, strongly integrated into German society. And many of them, probably most of them, thought of themselves first as Germans.
Exactly.
And then only secondly as
Maybe why it was
Jewish.
It's so hard to comprehend that this was
And
going
absolutely,
to happen.
they were incredibly patriotic. That many of them, if they
Right.
were, of armed forces age during World War I, had served in the German army in World War I. And so to have this massive turnaround and to have them, sort of being expelled and expunged basically from German society was an incredible shock to them.
Right.
So Roger Grunwald portrays several characters in this
Right,
in this
three-
dramatization. Yeah,
right,
three
three
characters.
characters.
One of them is one of these German Jewish members of the Wehrmacht, the German army.
Right.
But another one is sort of the more typical Polish Jewish victim of the, and an inmate in one of the concentration
To give
camps.
us that insight into the Eastern European.
Yes, and I mean,
aspect.
they were, of course, the majority. There were many, many
Right.
more Jews in Poland and in various parts of Russia and the former Soviet Union, who were fairly quickly exterminated or moved to, initially to ghettos in some places, and then
to
frequently
camps.
to camps, to work camps or death camps, or a sequence of
Progression.
one or the other. And so you have those two characters, and then he also has a very interesting chorus or choir who kind of comments on the action.
Right.
And I won't sort of
No,
mention
it's
what
very
kind of
interesting
character
'cause he
this
portrays
is.
all of it, yes.
And he portrays all of these. They all speak differently, and they have different demeanor. It's really quite striking. In the beginning, he wears a Nazi uniform, and you
Oh,
think,
wow. That takes
what
you
is
back.
what is going on here?
Yeah, that puts you off, yeah.
He calls this the mitzvah or the mitzvah project.
Right.
The mitzvah is a term that means good deed.
Yes.
Um,
So how does that
and-
apply to this?
Well, I won't spoil it by mentioning
Okay,
it in the
good.
details, but there are several events in the intersection of the lives of the major characters
I see.
that become, sort
They
of
interconnect
conceived
and-
as mitzvahs or mitzvot, but not in the usual way. It's a very powerful, dramatic dramatization. And then after that, he talks and then takes questions and discussion
Right.
about
Oh, that's
particularly
right.
the whole
So the-
history of the Jewish population of Germany from the 18th century and earlier
Right.
to up to the Nazi period, and then talks about
Right.
many other aspects of the Holocaust.
So that post-performance discussion will
Right.
be very important.
Yes.
And Abe, I want to thank you and the entire Jewish Council of North Central Florida for doing the mitzvah of bringing a Holocaust Remembrance
Yes.
program
Yeah.
to us once again,
Yeah.
year after year. I know you've been involved for many years. And of course, we want to thank Dr. Will Kessling for the protest
Yes,
requiem that we
absolutely.
can attend on Saturday, April 18th.
Yeah.
I thank you both for being such outstanding guests.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. And I'm glad that you tuned in, and I hope you will join us next week. Take care.